Do VPNs still work in China? If you are currently in China, you're probably aware of how difficult it is to connect to a VPN right now. Don't worry, you're not alone. This is a problem people are having all across the country. So what has happened? Do VPNs no longer work in China? Special note, these past few years have been particularly hard on VPN users in China. With COVID-19, Hong Kong protests, the trade wars and other major narratives China wants to control, the Ministry of Information has been particularly harsh. All that to say this, no matter which VPN you use right now, you're going to have connection problems. Personally, this is why I subscribe to multiple VPN services, but that's just me. I'll start by saying this, as of May 2023, it is still possible to connect to a VPN in China. It's been difficult to connect at times, but yes, it is possible. The question if VPNs work in China repeats on a cycle, a fact that you probably know well if you've lived in China for more than a year. During important government meetings, major holidays, or during sensitive anniversaries, it becomes harder to connect to VPNs. Not impossible, but sometimes very, very hard. That's why it's important to choose a VPN that dedicates significant resources to serving the China market. Personally, I use ExpressVPN and NordVPN right now, both of which have been incredibly reliable for me this past year. That said, my primary VPN changes all the time, and I subscribe to a number of other VPNs that work great in China. Another great option, if you've had trouble with the above two options, every part of China connects differently. I also highly recommend Surfshark as a great service. No matter what service you use, there are a few steps you can take to ensure that you can stay connected even when it feels like you can't find which VPNs work in China. Tips for good VPN connection in China in 2023. Not all VPNs work in China, particularly when the government starts clamping down on server connections, but there are a few measures you can take to give yourself the best chance to bypass censorship while in China. Make sure your VPN app is updated. One of the best ways to make sure your VPNs work in China is to keep your app updated. VPN services like Surfshark, NordVPN, and ExpressVPN make important tweaks to their connection protocols when connections become difficult. You may not be able to log onto the websites directly, but the links above are dynamic links that direct you to an unblocked page from within China. Check the China server status of your VPN. Any VPN service that serves the China market well will have a status page that will provide timely updates on connection issues, possible fixes, and tips on how to connect to VPN servers in China. Examples of this would be the ExpressVPN status page, the NordVPN status page, and the VYPRVPN status page. Each of these web pages should be updated on a weekly, if not daily basis, and often tell you exactly which servers are working in China. Change server locations and connection protocols multiple times. Any good VPN will allow you to change server and protocol connections as much as you want. If you find that you aren't able to connect to a server, try changing to a different server location or connection protocol. And don't get discouraged if it doesn't work after 2 to 3 changes. During the worst times, it often takes me 10 to 15 changes before I'm able to get it where my VPNs work in China. Be patient, even if you connect, it's going to be slow. You should also realize that if your VPN is having a difficult time connecting to the server, it's highly likely that even when it does connect, your internet speeds are going to be extremely slow. Remember, this is China. Be patient. If past experience tells us anything, it's that this too shall pass, even if it takes a week or 2. While China's increased censorship will impact how all VPNs work in China, only the best are able to make adjustments and evade the block. Will China block VPNs in the future? I have experience living in China dating back to 2006, and these types of VPN blocking scares seem to happen all the time. By now, I can usually predict when it's going to happen. China has a major anniversary or there's an embarrassing news event. China threatens to block all VPNs and people freak out. Changes are made and the VPN companies adjust. It's the classic game of cat and mouse censorship China plays. And that's the thing, it would be very difficult for China to completely block VPNs. There are times when they do a very good job, such as during sensitive dates or during high-level government meetings. However, even during these times of tightened internet, the best VPNs for China have historically adjusted quickly to the changes so that we foreigners can still enjoy getting on Facebook, Gmail, and using Instagram in China. Some VPN companies are faster than others and some get blocked quicker than others, but that's why I always subscribe to at least 2 VPNs at once, one as my primary and one as a backup. If VPNs work in China, what are they blocking? The million-dollar question is this: what's the deal with all this news about China blocking VPNs? Based on my understanding, it's really quite simple. China is looking to control the way the companies and corporations access the internet using a VPN, which is what VPNs were originally designed for. Reading the fine print, some of the more recent bans reveal China's intention to block VPNs for corporations. China really wants corporations to use government-registered virtual private network services to secure their data, which honestly is a bit scary. Smaller companies that use third-party VPNs will need to make changes, whereas the larger corporations that can afford to build a proprietary VPN will need to get it registered with the government. It all boils down to China tightening its grip on information coming into and out of the country.